I watched this video of Iceberg, the Iceberg of why do NASCAR fans watch NASCAR, of course. And personally, I get this idea of most of the answers that came to him as he asked, "Why do you watch?" is that someone involved someone else into this culture. People accept this culture in some way, or were raised inside this culture. Well, I mean, growing up from the childhood and dragged into it, or shared with someone who they appreciate, love, or something like that. And there was many aspects about when you understand the sport, when you get understand the drivers, when you get to know the drivers, when you get to know this whole shit. And I just simply understood that my answer would never be like that. I don't care how NASCAR operates. What does there is some tricks and I don't know, underwater rocks about it, what it does, etc., etc. In essence, I was myself always a sport fan inside the community of people who absolutely indifferent to sport. In Russia, it's no football interesting, no hockey is interesting, no, of course, no racing is interesting, etc. My actual interest in racing started when I occasionally come across Formula One races that were shown in the Soviet Union, already in Russia, but just collapsed Russia. And I get into it because this provided some emotions, and I personally was involved in some personalities. And with years, I started to grow up inside of me, understanding why, not understanding, but interest start to grow inside of me, interest for different races, different classes of races, different sports venues, I guess. I watched football, real football, not American. And I was involved in sports altogether, but with years, Formula One simply died off. There was Le Mans races, of course, which never was shown in Russia. After, there was occasionally some translations of either Le Mans races or repeats. In the record they showed some other races, GT races, etc., etc. And I always was a mechanical guy, you know. I love to fix and unbolt everything, bolt it together in different ways, etc., etc. I was always mechanical guy. I mean, I love to work with my hands. And the sports get me involved because it's mechanical. I also watched football, but with years, as years goes by and I started to grow up and understand what the sports become, Formula One just simply died off for me. Football is died off for me. I never was a hockey fan, never interested, while I played all my, let's say toddler childhood in the hockey at the backyard of my house. I mean, big house, big apartment house. I played hockey, but I never was hockey fan. I never played football, but I was a football fan. I never drove a car before I get involved into this idea, and I become a fan. But when the years goes by, Formula One simply died off. More politics, more money, less competition, less interesting things to watch, etc., etc. With time, this format simply died off, just as died off the young formulas, or how to say it, lower classes formulas, and I switched to GT racing. GT racing during that time was something that were appealing because there was passes, because the cars could get into each other. One moment I tried to watch European Touring Championship, but it sucks. No passes, no overtakes, no real fight, etc. And with years, all of a sudden, at Russian TV, they start to show IndyCar, and I get involved in that because while it's boring, of course, it's totally boring, but it gets the idea, provides you idea of cars can pass each other, cars can crash, etc., etc. And after I get involved in NASCAR, of course, because in some shape those are interconnected or intersect with each other, I guess. So I get involved in NASCAR. And since then, since I get access to free internet, I guess unlimited internet and unlimited access to the races, I get involved in NASCAR. And this is, growing up. When people in comments saying that my dad, my girlfriend, my boyfriend, my friend, etc., get me involved in this idea, and I start to get interested because some personalities, some sports, some inside of sports stuff, etc. The problem was always is that NASCAR from the start for me was something that provided something that was lacking other type of sports, even not motorsports. I mean, lack of competition in football, in hockey, in motorsports, all kind. Lack of competition, lack of real competitive events where I don't know. It's like when someone out of the range of 2, 3, 4 drivers that's supposed to win is winning, you're like, wow, it's cool, it's interesting, involving, etc. But when the time has come and there was like 2 teams, two racers, or 2 drivers, or two teams can win, and if someone wins, it's not involving anymore, because the whole idea of you watching the same every weekend, absolutely the same drivers winning, same drivers competing for the next few places, same drivers going in the bottom of the field, etc. So this understanding that this sport is dying, no competition in football or overall in general the soccer, I mean, for you it's soccer, but it's really football. So the football was not appealing anymore. And overall, I can see this tendency that this is a crowd thinking mentality. My dad, granddad, parents, older friends, etc. used to watch something that was NASCAR. And they get involved, and they get in personalities, and they get after. When I get involved in NASCAR, I didn't know any driver. The only thing I cared about is the team I picked to cheer for. And that's it. No reasons whatsoever, just simply personal sympathy. But with years, I get in to know some racers, some NASCAR personalities overall, and watching the people who competing on the track and off the track. And I have, like, really, maybe it's because I'm Russian, I can't relate to any of them except a couple guys who really appealing to me, but they either just already finished their career or not even competing for big places. Otherwise, I don't see good people. I don't see true competition. I don't, while I understand more and more about mechanical side of the problem of the sport, I don't get involved in this, etc., etc. So I was there because NASCAR provided something that was appealing to me as a motorsport fan. Races that provide competition of more than 2 teams, and this is what were appealing to me, really. The competition, when people can win from weekend to weekend, different people can win, different people can become a champions, etc., etc. The format sucks, of course. I didn't understand the NASCAR championship format, but it's okay, it's fine. I understand that you signed up for something, for the rules that you signed up for playing. I mean, you accepted those rules, so don't whine about the format. You want to be involved in NASCAR? Well, play by the rules. Okay, fine, and I get it. But this is whole idea of people get involved because personalities, because they understand the sport, because they understand something. Actually, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I watched not whole the video, but mostly what I'm hearing is that it's like herd mentality. You were raised inside some community that cheered for some sport, and therefore you become a fan of the sport. It's not because you like the sport. It's not because what happened at the track at the moment. It's not because you're, I don't know, real motorsport fan. No. Mostly it's because of the herd mentality. Because some people do it and I will do it. I was raised that way and therefore I become a fan. I was get involved in some moment of my life that were changing. It's like you get in relationships and all of a sudden you're a NASCAR fan also, etc. This is all. Why do I even want to talk about this question? Because there is a problem. For me personally, there is a problem. It's totally egoistic world. America, United States of America, is totally egoistic country. The country where the whole bunch of individuals do not relate to each other, get together in herds and watch sports that absolutely makes no sense, such as NHRA, baseball, American football, and even the basketball. And hear me out, I'm a huge basketball fan myself, but basketball is absolutely meaningless and boring, just as any other American sport. And even the NASCAR, to be well understood, I grew up when there was competitions, when there existed competitions, when cars not only pass each other, but overpass each other, like someone fell down and overpass each other and get back, and get how to explain it. It's when you few laps down in NASCAR and someone get returned because of the white flags or because of the yellow flags. Cool, I know, not fair, shitty, etc. But when you like in the deep of the field and you need to go through the field and there's some mechanical problems and people still get back, and it's a lap not for 30 seconds, it's like, you know, regular 2-minute, 3-minute lap. And you fall back and you get back, and this is back and forth, happens all the time. Some circumstance change, some competition fall down. I was grew up as a fan in era of Ayrton Senna, when piece of shit car McLaren was driven by Senna, and Senna compete with cars that were not only faster but also technically better. I mean, I grew up in the era when not only the car decides, but also this ability of the driver to drive. This is what NASCAR and, by the way, IndyCar providing. But with the shitty unifications and involving of the big money in the sports, the more money, the shitter the sport becomes shit over time. And last season, maybe I grew up again, but the last season was the worst. While I'm absolutely cheered for Kyle Larson and absolutely happy that Kyle became a champion, it was a piece of shit season. While there was 16 or I don't know, 18 different winners, it was a piece of shit season. When I came to NASCAR, it was appealing. The cars really like shoving each other. It's unfair, but okay, fine, I love it. There was multiple crashes inside one race. There was tragedies, etc., etc. It was not boring, not the same each weekend. Today, maybe I get used to it, but crashes every weekend. Same racers turn over or going around every weekend. Yes, different winners, but they simply round and they go in circles and it's boring. So when people trying to say that they represent some fan culture, they simply trying to say or justify how they get this herd mentality, why they get involved in herd. This is what makes me, I don't know, baffles. This is why I'm baffles. Americans are total egoists and individualists. It doesn't mean that they would not, I don't know, help someone. It means that their way of thinking is that I am. And that's it. I am, stop. Nothing after. I am. First going, I am. And yet, many conservatives love NASCAR. Many conservatives watch NASCAR. Many conservatives act like social group. Many conservatives being egoists in the same time. Many conservatives act like herd, and yet they hate something that's called socialism, which is literally the collectivism. They hate. I can't understand this idea. How in the same time you can represent some group of people, big group of people, be ignored, understanding your personal weakness to make difference in decision making, and yet hate the idea of something that provides you the power, the rule, the rights to make a difference. That's what baffles me. And none of the people who were commenting on this video, who were answering at his question, none of those people said that, well, I get involved in this because many other people watched. No, I watched it because my dad, my friend, my source, something else, something others. I get involved more and more as I understand the sports. I don't understand that NASCAR when I first watched it. The sheer competition, the simple NASCAR provided something that was already lack in European races. And today watching the NASCAR and watching any race, literally for me, it's like cars going around in circles. And I'm still a huge motorsport fan. But let me finish with this. To justify changes that NASCAR making in previous years make you as someone that represent a herd. NASCAR trying to do the same shit that Formula 1 did with its format. Destroy cars with aerodynamics and money. Once big money get involved, real big money. Once real big money get involved, once cars get more innovative, they destroying the competition. That's exactly the path that NASCAR going. And this herd that watching NASCAR today don't even see the problem. And once they see the problem, they attack it, they address it, and they always get ignored. And that's a problem. Problem with every sport. Problem in capitalism overall. Sorry that I bring it here, but problem in capitalism overall. Changes made for changes. It's not for profits. It's not for, well, they hope it's for profits. It doesn't made because there is demand and therefore supply. No. Changes made for changes and for nothing else. Whether people want it or not, whether people like it or not, people will accept any changes and will consume any product. Except the one that's not appealing to anyone, of course. But with years, more and more changes, even in NASCAR, going in that direction, without even understanding why they're doing it. They simply trying to destroy the sport, as it were already with IndyCar, F1, many European GT competitions, etc. And people don't understand it, and they don't care. And that's a problem for me. Once the money get involved, once the new technologies get involved, the cars become more complex and the driver more like operator. It's not that there are some driving skills involved. The whole idea of people trying to justify their love for NASCAR through personal perception while explaining why when they simply get inside the herd and get involved because the herd. And this is killing me. I don't know. This is just ridiculous.